Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next in our ongoing continuing education series. This is the APCO and NENA Educational Path. My name is Lee Santel, and I'm with the Rockland County Sheriff's Office here in downstate New York. Rockland County is actually the smallest county in New York State outside the 5 boroughs of New York City, but we're pretty well populated. At last count, we have a population of about 330,000, and our semi-consolidated countywide PSAP is answering about 250,000 calls per year here at the Sheriff's Office. There's my contact information up there on the screen. As I always say at all of these webinars, I invite you to call, email, Facebook, send smoke signals, whatever works for you. But please feel free to reach out if you have some questions about what I spoke about today. If you want some guidance, maybe I could. I don't really know a whole lot of anything, but I'd be glad to yammer on at you about what I think is the best way to go. Or if you have comments, and of course, feel free to leave comments down in the YouTube channel, because I do keep an eye on the comments that come in on the YouTube videos when they pop up. So if it's something that I can answer, then I would be more than glad to. You can find out more about our agency at 2020.rockland911.org. For the record, this webinar is being provided in conjunction with the Atlantic chapter of APCO, specifically the training committee thereof. And my thanks to President Mike Davis and Chairperson Erin Hannafin of the training committee for really sort of keeping the flame alive, and especially in this time with COVID and Omicron and whatever else is going on at the time of this presentation. I think everybody agrees that this sort of training that we're having is really vital to sort of keeping things going when in-person events are curtailed and when a lot of folks are not able to travel as easily. But that being said, even though I am here sort of in conjunction with or on behalf of the Atlantic chapter of APCO, this webinar is for informational purposes only. I don't represent APCO International or its programs, or to be honest, the chapter. I'm just a meat popsicle. So please make sure that you follow all applicable policies, procedures, and laws when it comes to participating in APCO programs. And again, while some of this information, obviously I verified the information that's in this presentation and all that sort of good stuff, but things change, and sometimes policies and programs from APCO change, the legal restrictions change, the requirements change, things like that. So obviously you want to make sure that you follow up with APCO directly if you have any specific questions, or if you contact me, I may tell you to call APCO and find out exactly the answer to your question, since I don't want to give them a ruling in some cases. But be sure that you keep an eye on that, especially if you're watching this sometime later after the fact. The programs do change from time to time. Speaking of the Atlantic chapter of APCO, I'm guessing most of the people who are watching this webinar got here because they found out about this webinar through the Atlantic chapter of APCO and the training committee. But for the record, if you found out about this webinar some other way and you're not a member of APCO, I hope you'll consider, after the webinar is over, becoming a member of APCO. It's not expensive at all, and it really gives you so many great benefits, training and advocacy and social opportunities and networking and conferences and publications and educational programs and all kinds of other great benefits. And it's sort of something you could do great for our industry nationwide or internationally as well, becoming a member of APCO and remaining a member of APCO. It only costs a few dollars a month. I think it's like $7 or $8 a month to be a member of APCO. And you can sign up very quickly and easily and start to see the benefits hopefully right away. After the webinar is over, if you're not a member, I hope you'll consider visiting www.apcointl.org/join and signing up quickly and easily with a credit card online. So I hope you will, and thus end the commercial. Let's talk about the educational path and educational growth for public safety telecommunications professionals. I'm assuming that everybody who's watching this webinar is already working in the field of public safety telecommunications in some form or fashion, some position. And in case you haven't noticed already, this can be a very challenging and often difficult job. It is definitely not for everyone. And I think that a lot of agencies struggle with getting the right people into the door and getting them to stay there, getting them to stay in the seat and working. It's a very challenging job. And it's a very different job. I know that historically, a lot of telecommunicators have worked for agencies like police, fire, and EMS agencies where they are sort of a civilian member of the team. I know there are certainly plenty of agencies that are still working that way, where the bulk of the agency is really dedicated to the field response, and the telecommunicators are sort of hooked on as one module or one part of the organizational chart there. Um, there are obviously many telecommunicators who are working for dedicated communications agencies. Their agency, all they do is communications, and there's all sorts of variations thereof. Some of them are actually just working side by side with police officers or other uniformed personnel. Some of them are working for a public safety agency, but in their own unit or in their own division. That's what we have here at our sheriff's office. And then, of course, you have agencies that are standalone. They're just standalone communications services that the people working there, the only thing that they do there is communications, and they don't really have any official tie to the other, to the field service agencies other than working with them in terms of public safety. And I think that last type, where you have a separate entity or a separate service, is really the way the industry has been shifting over, say, the course of my career over the past 20 years or so. Public safety telecommunications continues to evolve, and it seems like it's evolving into its own industry. And certainly I think that's true. I mean, it is just a different job. The days of having a police officer, firefighter, EMT, paramedic, or other field professional just sort of wander into the communication center and be assigned to communications for that one day and then go back out in the field or something like that, not really such a thing anymore. And certainly if it is, it's much harder. Public safety telecommunications has sort of become its own industry, and I think rightfully so. It's a different career path. It's a different area of operations. It is not the same job just because you went to police academy or you became you went to EMS academy or whatever. It doesn't make you a good telecommunicator. It doesn't mean that police officers, firefighters, and paramedics can't be good telecommunicators. They certainly can be, but it's just a different job. Much like somebody who works as a firefighter has, some overlap with law enforcement and some overlap with EMS, but still, firefighting is just a separate type of job, a separate career. And I think it's fair to say that it's rather similar in terms of telecommunications. Telecommunications has sort of become its own fourth branch of emergency response. It's just a different job. Certainly, there's plenty of overlap between public safety telecommunications and police and fire and EMS and other things that we're associated with. But it's a different career path, and it requires its own special educational requirements, its own special educational needs, its own special education programs, because we need staff development for public safety telecommunicators. We need staff development. The days of somebody wandering into the communication center having no training, or maybe they got trained for a short time when they were first hired and then nobody ever spoke to them about it after that until the one day they were on light duty or something like that. We need staff development that's dedicated to our public safety telecommunications staff members. Again, whether they are field responders who are sometimes or permanently or long-term assigned to communications, or whether they are civilian personnel, such as those that you have at my agency who have always worked as a telecommunicator and always will unless they leave the job. They're not field responders who are sitting in the chair for a week or whatever. We need staff development for these folks that's directly related to public safety telecommunications, and that also can lead, if in addition to helping the telecommunicators do their job better, hopefully, and helping them feel more engaged with the job, that can also lead to promotional opportunities for telecommunicators. I don't know whether your agency offers promotional opportunities for telecommunicators. Ours does. There are obviously, for standalone agencies, that's something that is, really sort of standard operating procedure. For ours, we are not. Our division is dedicated to communications, but we are one of the divisions of the sheriff's office. But if you want to have promotional opportunities for your telecommunicators, whether they exist now or you're going to make them or you're hoping to get them or whatever, I don't see a whole lot of promotional opportunities cropping up for telecommunicators without staff development. We need that in our business in order to make sure that we're bringing the right people up into the leadership positions and that they're prepped for the job and that they sort of have an eyeball on what's going on with the industry and the agency and the best way of operating. So we need educational growth in our industry, in our career path. That extends to the industry at large. As telecommunicators, since if it's true that what I just said, if it's true that telecommunications, the public safety telecommunications is sort of becoming its own thing, if it's true that public safety telecommunications is becoming like, for lack of a better term, the fourth branch of the public safety field, if it's true that it's sort of growing into its own, then as telecommunications professionals or as PSTs, our industry's growth is what we make of it. You know, if you are of the mindset that we are part of the police industry or part of the fire industry or part of the EMS industry, then that industry's growth is what we want, you would be focusing on. But if we're talking about public safety telecommunications being its own thing, it is our industry, and this industry, our industry's growth, is going to be what we make of it. If we put our backs into it and we really push to grow the industry and have it recognized and treated appropriately and given the proper resources and attention and, let's say, money, right, that it deserves, that's going to happen because we put our back into it, and our industry's growth is going to be what we make of it. So everyone's participation is needed in these programs, even if you yourself are not necessarily foreseeing, even if you don't necessarily foresee yourself as, the leader of an agency dealing with public safety telecommunications. Maybe you work for an agency where, they don't have promotional opportunities for telecommunicators. I know many people who work in that sort of agency where they have telecommunicators, and the next person up on the organizational chart is a sergeant or a lieutenant or some other field responder. Maybe your agency is like that. Maybe your agency is not like that, and they do have promotional opportunities and things like that, but you're just not planning on taking advantage of them. You're happy where you are as a telecommunicator, and there's certainly no shame in that. As we said, it's a tough job and a very complex one. So nobody should be, looked down upon because they stayed in the PST position. There are many days, and I lead a staff of about 20, and there are plenty of days where I'd say, you know what, I would rather be out on the floor taking call. I don't want to deal with any of this nonsense. Either way, everyone's participation is needed as much as possible. Even if you don't necessarily plan on climbing the ranks either at your agency or elsewhere, by participating in these educational programs and other industry programs, but we're talking today about the educational stuff, by participating in these programs, you're helping yourself. You're making connections with the people, products, and opportunities that can help you. You're meeting new people as part of these programs. You're learning about new things that you may not have known about your job or your industry beforehand, but now you will. You're learning about some of the things that are up and coming in our industry, what's coming down the pipeline, what's fading into the background. These things can help you in your job, even if you're not necessarily, whether you want to or not, even if you're not necessarily going to be moving up to a promotional opportunity. We hear operators say, well, I'm not going to take that program because that's for bosses. And, I'm never going to get promoted, or I don't have interest in being promoted. That's not always the basic. Obviously, if you want to get promoted, education is a good way to start the process of getting there, of getting to that position. But even if you're not, participating in these programs is important. It's important for you, and you're also helping the industry. The more people we have in our industry nationwide, but locally, regionally, statewide, nationwide, the more people we have in these educational programs, the better, because when you're taking these programs, when you're participating, you're helping the industry. You're moving our job and our support nationwide upward and forward, because our industry can say, look at all these highly trained professionals that we have in our industry that are, they take this seriously. This is not something where they punch in, punch out, and they don't care. This is an industry full of professionals that takes education and development seriously, and that looks good for our industry as a whole. So again, if you're looking for one of those promotional opportunities, if you're looking to move up in your own agency, if you're looking maybe to move up and take a leadership position, maybe climb the chain at another agency, moving somewhere else, or even if you're not looking at doing any of those things and you're going to be staying in your current agency at your current position, either way, educational programs are good for you. They're good for your region and your location. They're good for our industry. They're just a good idea overall. And what I have found, and I think in speaking to some of the committee members, I think they have found as well, it seems that a number of people in our industry don't always know what's out there, or they don't know what the benefit is to them, or they just don't have, maybe they've heard of a few of these programs, but they don't really think it's for them, or they don't understand the advantage, or they think there's no way that they would be able to participate in these programs. It's not their speed, or they can't get approved for it, or whatever. So one of the goals of this presentation was to just sort of maybe give an overview and answer some frequently asked questions about these programs, or at least give a summarization of these programs and what you need to do to get in and why you might want to take these programs as a benefit to you, because we find a lot of people don't know. They don't know about the programs, or they don't think that they're ready for them and things like that, so we wanted to cover. So let's talk about, in this presentation, let's talk about some of the programs that are out there, what you need to get into them, what you can get out of them, and other things you can do besides the participation in the programs that you can also do to further your career and further our industry and things like that. And let's really start with the really basic one, which is membership in APCO and NENA. I know this is an APCO presentation, but obviously I don't want to leave NENA out of this presentation, and they are another very important industry organization that we should be involved with as well. In my opinion, everybody who is in the public safety telecommunications field should be a member of APCO and NENA. And I know I covered this at the top of the presentation, but you really should be. It's not expensive. I don't remember what NENA membership costs these days. I haven't looked at my membership statement in a while, but it's similar to APCO. It's not expensive. I think APCO is APCO, the membership fee depends on whether you're a dispatcher or whether you're a commercial member or something like that, but it's not expensive for a telecommunicator. I think it's like $7 or $8 a month. You pay on an annual basis. So what is it, I think it's like $56 a year or something. I forget the exact price. But it's not expensive, and the same for NENA. It's not especially expensive to become a member of APCO and NENA. So, and in regards to participation, some people say, well, I would join APCO and NENA, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be interested in participating. Look, you could participate as much as you want to, and you don't have to participate any more than you. Obviously, I would hope you will. But even if you don't, you could still be a member, even if all you do is lurk. Even if all you do is go on the online forum and just sort of read other people's posts, and you don't participate in any committees or leadership positions or anything like that, it's still okay. It's still okay. It's good to be a member of APCO and NENA because you get exposed to those sorts of resources and communication and participation that just comes with being a member. You get the publications, you get the magazines, you get various emails and notification of industry events and things like that. You have to be a member of APCO and NENA in order to see that sort of thing. So before you And also, if you plan on doing the educational programs, almost all of them offer a discount if you're a member. And usually even taking one class is enough. For example, the CMCP program from NENA, which we'll cover later or whatever. I forget what it costs to be a member of NENA, but whatever it costs, the discount you get for taking CMCP immediately recoups your membership cost and then some. It's an immediate benefit. It's quite, and you get even more on top of that. So, you can participate as much as you want to or not. I hope you will. Participating online. PS Connect is the online forum for APCO. Again, if you're not familiar with that, please, once you become a member of APCO, if you're not already, please go to the APCO website and log into PS Connect. Check out what's there. There's so much discussion going on a daily and hourly basis about different things, different programs, different resources, everything regarding public safety telecommunications. Of course, APCO's website is a wealth of information. Their Facebook page. That includes the Facebook page for both APCO International and your chapter, which is the Atlantic chapter of APCO. Conferences, always, very, very good. The APCO International conference is outstanding, and it really is a lot. And I hope you take the opportunity, if you have the chance, to go to one or every year. Certainly there are also great chapter conferences as well. The Atlantic chapter always does a great job of putting together their conferences. There's also committees and work groups. I think a lot of people who are not in the know, they hear about these committees and work groups and they say, well, I'm just a telecommunicator. Nobody wants me on that work group. I got news for you. Most of the people, with a few exceptions, there are some work groups and committees obviously that are sort of higher level, but the majority of the work groups and committees are made up of telecommunicators at the entry-level position. These are not 20-year veterans of the industry with 10,000 letters after their name who lead multi-state agencies or whatever. And there are obviously plenty of those, but there are just as many, if not more, telecommunicators, entry level. So even if you're not, a leader of 1,000 people or whatever, and you are just a regular telecommunicator who's doing a great job at their console, you can participate. There are places for you on committees and work groups. And the same goes regarding your how much you put into it. People say, well, I can't travel and there's no way I can go to. You don't need to travel to participate on most of these committees and work groups. You can, almost all of them, I can't speak for NENA 100%, but certainly for APCO, the vast majority of them, if not all of them, are all done by a conference call and webinar and things like that. So you don't need to have a travel budget in order to go. Some of them do require some commitment, but these are not common. Most of them are done remotely, and you can just you can participate from the console if you like. We certainly have members of committees at both the national and chapter level who, when they join these conference calls. As I record this webinar, it's a Tuesday, I'm going to be on the National P33 Committee conference call later on today. That's a conference call. And there are plenty of people who are on that call who work from the console while they are working, at the desk. So you can definitely participate. Even if you are not a major player, you are more than welcome to join, and I hope you will. But even if you don't plan to join in these committees and work groups, which can be very educational in their own right as you learn about the various workings of APCO at both the chapter and the national level and the various programs and other things that are out there, even if you don't, I hope you'll consider remaining a member of APCO and NENA regardless, because they're super valuable. You get free access as part of your membership to great resources. PS Connect, NENA Webinar Wednesday. I believe at the time of this webinar that NENA was still offering Webinar Wednesday free to members. It's a free training webinar that comes out on the first Wednesday of every month, and they're excellent. They're very, very good. There's other periodicals that you can get. NENA has a magazine they put out. APCO has their PSC magazine, which is very good. This month's issue was excellent. You can participate in legislative drives. 911 goes to Washington through NENA and state level things and things like that, committees. Sometimes when you're a member of APCO and NENA, you can even find job opportunities as part of the process. NENA and APCO both have their own job boards, which are free to look at and free to get notifications from. So if you're on the hunt for a new job, or you're thinking about changing to applying for different things, you can get resources through there. They will email you about jobs that become available, and you may also meet people. I see all the time where people I've met through APCO and NENA committees and conferences and things like that, and they drop the word to me. They say, hey, listen, anybody who's looking for this managerial job or that supervisor job or that telecommunicator job. So networking, that's how you get it done. So again, I hope you'll consider becoming or remaining and participating in APCO and NENA membership. Okay, but let's move on to actual training. Let's move on to training here. If you want to escalate your career, I'm sure there are people out there who somehow, without any additional training, fall into some long-term lucrative career. I think it's fair to say that for most people, you need training. Even if obviously many of us who have significant experience in our jobs, we sort of learn about it through on-the-job training, and that's great. I mean, obviously that's very important. But also, look, employers want to see that you've taken the commitment to participate in formal training so that they can know that you've really, put your heart and soul into getting the job done right. So if you want to escalate your career, if you want to get better jobs, if you want to move up the chain, if you want to be the big bad boss at some point or whatever you're looking for, if you want to move into the technical side of it like radio engineering or whatever, IT or whatever, you need additional training, both for your own educational purposes and also to demonstrate to others that you've gone through the formalized process. Of course, a college degree rarely will steer you wrong if you are going for the higher level positions. If you want to move into a supervisory or administrative role, certainly one of the specialty positions like IT or something like that. Look, I don't think anybody's going to turn you down for having a college degree. It's required for many positions. They want to see an associate's, a bachelor's, or higher, and so a college degree is always a good choice. That being said, industry certifications are also an excellent choice. And that could be in addition to your college degree, or that could be, if you decide not to pursue a college degree right now and you want to sort of focus on more job-related training, industry certifications are an excellent way to further your training in that regard. Many agencies, in fact, now require to have various certifications, most of which we're going to talk about later on in this presentation. And you'll see them when you look at the job postings. They want to see ENP, they want to see CPE, they want to see these other things. So, I don't think you're going to go wrong if you pursue these certifications, this sort of job-related training and certifications that are out there. And again, sometimes along the way, while you're in these programs, you're in the RPL program or you're in the CMCP program, and you meet people from other agencies, and not only are you getting the training, but you're also meeting people who might be your gateway to finding yourself that new position that you're looking for, or that promotion that you were always thinking about, or whatever. So it's both the training content, but also the networking and relationships you build along the way, those professional relationships. So I'm going to divide it up into APCO's educational path and then NENA's educational path. Let's take a look at APCO's educational path first, because that's, it's an APCO webinar, so let's start with APCO first. The entry-level job certification that APCO offers is the Public Safety Telecommunicator course, or as they used to call it, Public Safety Telecommunicator 1. I think they still call it that. But PST is the entry-level course. And then we have CTO, CCS, RPL, and CP. We'll take them one at a time. So the Public Safety Telecommunicator course has no prerequisites. This is the one that, basically the idea is that everybody in the whole industry is supposed to start with the PST course. It's the base level training for somebody who wants to work as a telecommunicator. Excuse me. We put all of our people through the PST course. We have our own dispatch academy with APCO instructors. I'm one of them. As a matter of fact, next week I'll be standing in front of a PST class all week. There's no prerequisites to get into the Public Safety Telecommunicator program. It's a 40-hour program plus on-the-job training. So the classroom portion is 40 hours. And it is a 2-year recertification cycle. It's 24 hours of continuing dispatch education per year. There's a wide variety of ways in order to earn that continuing ed, as with most APCO programs. You can do it via magazine articles, in-class, in-person class attendance, watching videos and webinars like this one online. As long as, you can present the documentation, they're pretty flexible about what you can use to qualify for the continuing ed. But you have to do 24 hours continuing ed per year over the cycle of 2 years to total up 48 hours. And for that, you get your Public Safety Telecommunicator renewal. The class itself covers a wide variety of introductory topics. Day one, it's a 5-day class, 40 hours. Day one covers a lot of introductory stuff and talking about the industry and our career. Day two is talking about the telephone technology, how 911 works, and physically answering a 911 call, the 4 steps, answer, greet, process, and end. And things like that. There's also some stuff about taking a special 911 call, special calls like TTY calls and things like that. And on day 2 they also talk about radio technologies and certain things that you should know as a telecommunicator about how radio systems work at an introductory level. Day 3 is about call processing. I'm sorry, I think I'm bleeding over the days here. But anyway, after that they talk about call processing. They talk about different scenarios that you might encounter over the phone, like a hostage situation or a building fire or something like that, and different things that you should think about when you're asking questions on the phone of these callers and dispatching them. And then they also cover the incident command system. There's a whole module on that. There's talk about liability issues. There's quite a bit on avoiding liability and dealing with the liability risk associated with our job. There's about continuing ed. There's stress management. There's all kinds of topics that are covered throughout the course. It's a great course, and it's really meant for entry level. So whether you're already working as a telecommunicator or whether you've been working as a telecommunicator for quite some time, I think everybody who comes to the PST class agrees that there's something in it for them because it covers so much. I've had telecommunicators who have 15 years on the job, and they come in and they say, we never got trained on XYZ, and I'm so glad that we covered it in this class because it was interesting, and I've always thought about it, like TTY or something like that. That they really enjoy it. So it is a great course, and certainly if you haven't had any formal classroom time, some agencies do on-the-job training, and they don't really put the trainees through any classroom time. If you haven't had any classroom time as part of your career, obviously PST would be an excellent place to start. And of course, if you're in our neck of the woods, please feel free to join us for PST. We offer it at least once a year, usually more than once a year. So you're welcome to join us for that. Or, of course, go to the APCO website. You can take it online, whichever one works for you. Same goes for the Communications Training Officer course, or CTO course. This is sort of like the next level up, as it were. You do need to have PST in order to take the CTO course. You can also qualify with one of the other basic courses out there. International IAD offers one called Basic Telecommunicator, or BTC. There's a couple of others. But you do need to have one of those basic courses before you can get into the CTO program. The CTO program, if you're taking it in classroom, you're taking it online, it's a different story, but if you're taking it in classroom format in person, the duration is 24 hours. We actually extended at our agency. Again, we have our own academy, so we have our APCO instructors who teach CTO for our academy. We actually extend it to 4 days because it is quite a bit of information. But officially speaking, it is a 3-day course, and it doesn't need to be longer than that if your instructor is able to get it all in there. You do need to have 12 hours of continuing ed per year in order to recertify at the end of your 2-year cycle. It's a pretty intense class. It's a lot. They talk about performance-based training, how to communicate with trainees of various experience levels and various ages, counseling trainees who aren't doing the job well enough, performance evaluations, documenting all this stuff on paper or in a computer, if depending on what your agency does, the liability risks that can come along with not doing the CTO job properly and things like that. It's a really excellent course, and again, I think a lot of the people who come to the course, for those who are in our agency, they're used to a CTO program because we operate a pretty extensive one. But if you work for an agency that doesn't have a CTO program, or if you yourself have never been through or participated in a CTO program, or your agency doesn't do one, they really seem to enjoy it. It's a lot of information, but it's very informative, and it's just a good program to go through. I think it works very, very well. The next one up you have on the APCO educational path is the Communication Center Supervisor, or CCS program. Again, to get into CCS, you must have PST and CTO. You got to have that under your belt. It is a 3-day class. Again, the online length varies, but if you're taking it in person, it's 24 hours. It's 3 days, and it's 12 hours of continuing ed per year for a total of 24 hours over the 2-year cycle in order to recertify. The CCS class focuses quite a bit on leadership, developing policy and procedure, communicating both with employees who work for you and also with those supervisors who are watching you, counseling employees on their performance, both good and bad, giving them performance evaluations, liability risks. There's also quite a bit in the supervisor course about transitioning. If you're a telecommunicator at the entry level and now you're getting promoted, the CCS course talks quite a bit about transitioning to that supervisory role. What's going to change? What needs to change in you? What needs to change in how you interface with other people and things like that? So again, it's a good course. It's a lot of information, but it seems to be well received by the trainees. Again, we offer that at our place. So for those who attend the course, they seem to enjoy it, and there is quite a bit. Both the CTO and the CCS course include quite a bit of in-program practice in terms of writing documentation, developing personal goals, sort of like a little bit of role play action where, we pretend there's a scenario where the employee is doing this or the trainee is doing that, and we go through it. It's a good program, and I hope you'll consider it. Those three, the PST, I'm not going to mention the other programs that APCO runs, of which there are extensive ones. Obviously, EMD, the Emergency Medical Dispatch, Fire Service Communications, Law Enforcement Communications, and a whole host of other classes and webinars that they offer, which are sort of individualized. They're not necessarily part of the, shall we say, promotional path, but they're obviously very important functional training for you and how to do different things in your job, crisis communications, and all kinds of things like that. And you can find out more information about those either from your agency, if your agency doesn't require everyone to go to it, or you can find out more information at the APCO website. APCO typically has excellent instructors who really work hard to develop the students and make sure that they're able to take advantage of the training. So I do encourage you to check out the APCO website for those other sort of line-level functional training options that they offer and certification programs that they offer. Next, we're going to move on to sort of more like the administrative level or the executive level programs that APCO offers, and there's really two big ones. The first one is the Registered Public Safety Leader, or RPL program. So the RPL program is designed for those who are moving into more of like an administrative or executive level, maybe like a mid-level manager or a manager or administrator of an agency. Although we do have in the RPL program, we do have some folks who are entry-level telecommunicators who do participate, and that's certainly encouraged. But the program is primarily aimed at those who are sort of moving up the chain, as it were. You do need to be an APCO member in order to enroll in the RPL program. So that's first things first. It is a fully online program. It's all done online through APCO's online education system. It's 12 months in duration. For recertification, it's a 4-year certification cycle, and it's point-based, and you can get various points based on doing different things with APCO, participating on committees, teaching classes, doing other things. And again, all that information is on the APCO website, where you can check out the RPL program as to what you need in terms of recertification. A lot of the RPL program is focused on different methods and different ways in which you can, encouraging you to communicate with people as part of your job, communicating with people all up and down the chain of command, managing others, developing talent in your staff and also in yourself, team building. There's also a part of the RPL program which deals with learning more about APCO as an organization, learning about how the structure of APCO is and how it's run and how it operates, how you can participate more in APCO's operations and their committees and operations and things like that. There's also a community service project which students are required to participate in as part of their RPL development, where they get involved in a telecommunications-related service project that is designed to be a benefit to their local region or their local community, which they have to complete as part of the program. So it's a 1-year program. RPL used to be the highest level certification program that APCO offered, and it was very popular. It still is very popular. And many people do enroll in the RPL program. And again, I think almost part of it is when you're in the RPL program, it's not just about the education, although obviously that's very good. You learn quite a bit about leadership and things like that. Excuse me. But you also sort of make contact and meet people from across the country who are in the same boat as you. They're looking to really develop themselves and contribute to the industry and support our industry and support their agency and things like that. And those connections that you make along the way can really be a very good thing, both for yourself and also for how you lead, how you eventually lead your agency or do your job, or both. So the RPL program is quite good. In the past several years ago, APCO sort of released a new tier to their educational program, a little higher even than RPL, which was the Certified Public Safety Executive Program. That's currently APCO's sort of crown jewel in terms of their highest level educational program that they offer through APCO, if you will. To join the CPE program, you do need to have an RPL certification. Or if you don't have RPL certification, you need at least an associate's degree, so that's where that college element comes into it. You don't have to be an RPL, but if you have an associate's degree, or if you don't have either of those, you can have a high school diploma, high school graduation, but you need to have 10 years of supervisory experience. And again, for more details, contact APCO. There's also information on the website. But you need to have various qualifications in order. There seems to be a misunderstanding among APCO members that you can't get to CPE unless you go through RPL first. That isn't true. You don't need to be an RPL in order to join the CPE program. I'm actually in the CPE program. I was supposed to graduate. Unfortunately, it was delayed due to COVID, so it's been pushed off for a few months. But I'm not an RPL, and I joined the CPE program based on my other qualifications. So there seems to be some misunderstanding with that. And the bottom line is, if you have an associate's degree or higher, or even if you have a high school diploma but you have 10 years of supervisory experience, you still can apply and be accepted to the CPE program. Right now, the CPE program is very selective. It is a small program. It's kept very small to maintain the quality of the program. Tim Scanlon and his group there at APCO, who really are the heart and soul of the CPE program, work double overtime to really keep the quality and the freshness of the content of the CPE program really like the gold standard. I mean, they're really really fantastic at what they do, and it can be a tough program to get into because there's a lot of people who want to get it, and so. But again, you don't need to be an RPL. So even if you only have an associate's degree and you don't have an RPL or something like that, you can still get in. It's a 6-month program. That 6-month program consists of 2 classes which are done online. Each one is roughly 3 months long, let's say. Those are done online with your classmates, and then after these 6 months is complete, you go to APCO's headquarters in Daytona Beach, Florida, for what they call the capstone course, which is basically 2 weeks, let's say 10 days, 10 business days. You go in for the capstone course where you're with your classmates in person at APCO's headquarters in Daytona Beach, and they have various experienced collegiate level instructors come in and work with you on all kinds of things. And then after that, you graduate, and they put a nice picture of you on the APCO Facebook page. Recertification is not required for CPE. Once you have it, you have it. You don't have to recertify after that. The CPE program is really, really tightly focused on leadership. There's quite a bit of reading. It's collegiate level reading. There's quite a bit of discussion about your own growth as a leader and leading others. Leading the people in your agency or acting as a leader for our industry. There's quite a bit of discussion about the best way to go about leadership, what's good, what's bad, and things like that. It's a pretty intense program, quite a bit of work involved, but it's a good, thorough discussion. It's a real deep dive into leadership and different aspects thereof. Definitely more along the collegiate level sort of situation. This is not something where you basically just show up and they give you a ribbon at the end. You're definitely going to be asked to do some writing and some thinking and some talking and some reading and things like that. So it is an excellent program, however. So that is the sort of educational path, as we might call it, PST to CTO to Communications Training Officer to Communications Center Supervisor, all the way up to RPL, Registered Public Safety Leader, and then, of course, at the top there, you have the Certified Public Safety Executive, or CPE. And that, again, we didn't talk about, I didn't mention it, but they are out there, the law enforcement communications and other functional positions that are available from APCO. The LEC course, which is designed for people who take call and dispatch for law enforcement agencies, is 32 hours in duration, and it covers various law enforcement things, classifying calls that are coming in, dispatching those calls, terrorism awareness, NIMS and ICS. You also have the Fire Service Communications, or FSC course, which is a similar idea. It's 4 days in duration, but it has to do with fire service. It has to do with fire service apparatus and dispatch procedures, terrorism awareness, hazmat, things like that. And then, of course, you have sort of the granddaddy of them all when it comes to the functional training, which is the Emergency Medical Dispatch Program. To get into EMD, unlike law and fire, you must have PST certification, and you need to have a CPR card. But it's 32 hours in duration, and again, this EMD is a sort of deep dive into all sorts of medical things, resource allocation, the EMD guide cards, anatomy and physiology, quality assurance for EMD is required by national standard. All these things are covered during the 4-day EMD course. Okay, so moving on from APCO to NENA, NENA also has a variety of programs available. And again, I'm not going to get into a lot regarding NENA's sort of functional training like their law enforcement processing program or their other, sort of, I don't know what the word is, but let's say one-off functional training that they offer for, and there's a wide variety, quality assurance and crisis communications and eliminating bias in the comm center and things like that, all sorts of programs that are available on their website. But I want to focus on sort of more like the promotional training, if you will. And the first stop on that train is their 911 Center Supervisor program. Now, unlike APCO's program, again, at the time of this presentation, and you can confirm this with NENA, but at the time of this program, you don't need to have prerequisites to get into NENA's 911 Center Supervisor program. It doesn't require PST and CTO like the APCO program does. It's 3 days in duration, and it doesn't require recertification. Much like APCO's CCS program, it does cover things like human resources and organizational management and leading teams and performance evaluations and things like that. NENA tends to take a slightly different tack in how they present the supervisory material to the trainees. So even if you've taken APCO's Communication Center Supervisor, you're like, well, I already had the CCS training. Should I really go to NENA's 911 Center Supervisor program? You'd be surprised at how much of a difference it can be in the programs. They're just two different flavors. Yes, they do have some overlap in terms of what they cover, but it's just two different flavors of, the material. And I think that there is definitely a benefit, if you're able to, if you have the opportunity, to join the NENA program as well. It's sort of looking at the same subject, as it were, from two different angles. I think their Center Supervisor program is great. And, again, and that's the same thing. Even if you have the 911 Center Supervisor program through NENA, should you consider taking the APCO one, the CCS program as well? I think you should. Again, if you have the ability, it really is, again, it's the same idea, but it's just a different tactic, a different technique when it comes to it. And I think variety is the slice of life in that regard. You really sort of see some different approaches to the way they pursue things, and I think it's worthwhile to jump into both of them if you have that opportunity. If you have one, take the other, and so forth. Okay, so now that is pretty much it for their mid-level supervisory training. NENA really shines in sort of the upper level, or let's say more like managerial or executive level training. And the first stop the first one of those is the Center Manager Certification Program, or CMCP program. For those of you who've taken CMCP, you know that it is a pretty intense program. It's only given in person. It's not offered online. We are going to be offering one hopefully in 2023. We have been trying to offer it every few years at our place. We host NENA for that position, for that program. So you do need to be in a supervisory position or higher in order to get into the CMCP program, and I think that they are allowing those who are under consideration for supervisory as well, even if you haven't been formally promoted to a line level supervisor position yet, but you'd have to check with NENA on that. It's a 1 week class. It's 40 hours in duration, and you don't need to recertify. It is a deep dive into functional training regarding, basically how to manage and run, or how to supervise a PSAP. Leadership, how to develop your organizational chart, communicating up and down the chain, recruiting new personnel and the hiring process, interviewing, things like that. You have to do a whole project as part of the class on PSAP consolidation. That's a big thing in our industry right now, is the consolidation portion. Many agencies are being created because of consolidation, or they're considering consolidation. There's a big project in the class with that. How to develop SOPs, how to run your training program, what to do about quality assurance, dealing with the media, giving press releases and press conferences, how to calculate what sort of staffing level your agency needs, and what that number should be, and all kinds of things. It's a lot, and it's really great. I'm inclined to say that among all the, I'm not that I've taken all of them, but among the many programs that I've participated in terms of a supervisory and management training for the PSAP, I'm inclined to say that CMCP is by far my favorite. I think it's the most value, and I think it's the most interesting, and I think it's the most hands-on, and I just overall like it the most. Our employees who participated in CMCP say they loved it, and it is, I think I like it the most because it's the most sort of hands-on. It's really talking about nitty-gritties, about, how do you calculate that staffing level, or what do you do about an RFP for your CAD system, or things like that. It's an excellent program. So I hope you'll take the opportunity, if you can get into a CMCP program, and they are offered around the country at various times. I know NENA books up quickly on those. But if you have the opportunity to get in, I do highly recommend it. And again, you are supposed to be, it is aimed at supervisors, people who are currently in supervisory roles or higher. But if you are somebody who's looking to advance your career, excuse me, and you haven't quite landed that position yet, I do know that if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if I was a supervisor when I took it. I can't remember, but it's a good program, and I hope you'll consider applying to it. And then you have the top one from the NENA ladder, which is the Emergency Number Professional. ENP is not strictly speaking a class. It's a certification. In order to get the ENP designation on your name and the fancy diploma, you need to take a test. And in order to apply for the test, it is a point-based system. You do need to have, just to even get your foot in the door for that point-based system, you need to have at least 3 years of experience on the job. But there's a whole other host of qualifications you need to have, which are based on a point system, which you have to get a certain number of points in order to gain entrance to the exam. That information is on the NENA website, excuse me, nena.org/ENP. Once you've been approved to take the exam, there is no class. It is not a program that you go to. It is just an exam. Now, they do offer what they call the BOK, the Body of Knowledge, which is like a book that basically covers a lot, pretty much all the material that you need to know. It's sort of like a study guide, as it were, which you're expected to study up. And many people who participate, who want to become ENPs, there are a number of study groups that are available nationwide. They're usually done remotely via conference call or Zoom or whatever. I know Tracy Eldridge and her group over there are doing a fantastic study group with a lot of them. I think they have 400 people in their ENP study group right now, which is just outstanding. So it's something where you sort of self-study. You sort of have to know the material going in, and there are study groups that can help you. And then basically you have to go in and take the exam. You have to go to, like many other industry groups where they have these certification exams, you have to go to like a Pearson testing center or whatever it is, and you take the exam, and it's done in a special supervised testing center, like when you go for like a nursing license or something like that. So you go in and you take your exam, and then if you pass the exam based on your studying or whatever, then you go ahead and you get your ENP designation. Recertification, like the application process, is also point-based. And again, there's a wide variety of ways you can earn those points for recertification. You participate in APCO and NENA, conferences and committees, teach classes, other things. All that information is available on the NENA website as to how you can qualify. So I don't want to get into the whole thing here because it is complex. What is in the body of knowledge? It falls into basically some big categories. The first one is a deep dive into 911 equipment and systems, understanding how the 911 system works in terms of tandems and selective routers, in terms of the MSAG, in terms of anti-alley, in terms of all these technical things related to how the 911 systems work. Same regarding GIS equipment and systems, knowing about how the mapping is done for the 911 systems, how they decide who to send who where. Laws and regulations that apply in terms of, just the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the Family Medical Leave Act, and all these other laws that you need to know if you're going to be an administrator of a 911 agency, various laws and state and federal laws and regulations that you need to know about and how to apply them and things like that. All that is included in the body of knowledge, and it's all included in the test. So that is quite a bit of studying, and I'm sure you can understand why a lot of people end up joining a study group, so that they can really put their heads over this whole thing. It is quite a bit. So that is the NENA educational path. And again, I've omitted these other fantastic programs that NENA offers on QA and crisis communication and eliminating bullying and eliminating bias and all the other programs that NENA offers, which are sort of functional. Again, for lack of a better term, one-offs that are sort of just subject-based or whatever, which you can certainly join and participate in addition to all of these sort of more higher-level programs or whatever. So let's say you think what I've said is great, and you want to get these training opportunities for yourself. What do? You work for an agency, and you really want to pursue these training options, and you want your agency to help you out with that. What do you do? Well, the first step when it comes to professional development for yourself and also for your staff, if you're already in a supervisory role, or even if you're not, and you want to see if you can get this sort of training for yourself and your colleagues and your employees and your agency, the first thing you got to do is research what training opportunities that you want to see for yourself and for your staff. And once you've researched them thoroughly, and you've looked into all the pros and cons, you looked into all the requirements and the costs and all kinds of things, then the next step is to sell them to management. A lot of telecommunicators I speak to, especially at smaller agencies, they're accustomed to working for a police chief or a fire chief, and they assume that they're going to get shut down the minute that they walk in the door because it's not police or fire or EMS related. I got news for you. A lot of these administrators are obviously very bright people. Maybe not at your agency, but at these agencies, the people who are in charge are very bright people, and they know a lot of things, but they may not even have any idea that these programs exist. I can tell you right now, if I asked the police chiefs in my area what a CMCP program was, they would say, well, I don't know, what is that? And they don't know about this stuff, and they don't understand why it's needed or what it is. So, a lot of times if you go in there and you explain what it is and why it would benefit you and or your agency, your employees, whatever, you might get buy-in. You can't assume that you're automatically going to get denied. If you come in with the assumption that you're going to get denied, it's not going to happen, especially if you decide, well, I'm not going to pursue that because they'll never approve it. Have you asked? If you've asked and you've gotten denied, I appreciate that. But if you haven't asked, then, don't at me, as the kids are saying these days or whatever. Don't assume you're going to be denied. Go in and sell it, and if they tell you no, they tell you no, but sometimes they tell you yes. In other situations, you plant the seed now, and then later the administrator finds out, they have some money left over in the budget or something like that, and you end up going to it in the end. So don't assume you're going to be denied. Research the training opportunities in depth so you understand what they're useful for, how they would be useful for the agency, how much they cost, what the qualifications are, who would be able to attend, and then present them to management and ask if the agency can help you out and send, and provide for training for you and or your colleagues or employees or whatever you're looking for. If you are denied, there are sources that you might be able to find for alternative funding. NENA and APCO both offer scholarships. Again, you wouldn't know about APCO and NENA scholarships if you're not a member of APCO and or NENA. So if you're not a member of APCO and or NENA, please consider becoming a member of APCO and or NENA. And then once you are a member of APCO or NENA or both, then you can research what scholarships are available and look at, what you can do to get yourself or others into these programs. Sometimes we can save money from other areas. We'll cut back on, the continuing ed that we're going to do for this, and we're going to put it towards that. There are all sorts of, I don't think games is the right word, but there's all sorts of things you can do in order to try and get into the programs. And that requires some effort in some cases on your part. Hopefully, you work for an agency that's a little more progressive in this area. They want to help you out. They want to get you into the programs whenever they can. Some agencies are a bit of a tougher sell. I get it, but we have to try. We have to try. And if you think, especially if you're thinking about taking training because you want to be a supervisor or administrator or executive or something like that, you want to move up the chain. If you can't even get it together to tell your entry-level supervisor that you're interested in taking training and sort of try to sell it to them and sort of try to move the chains, on your own behalf, how do you expect to push for your employees when when you do get promoted and when that time comes? If you can't sell the thing for yourself and you can't push for things to be done for yourself, how do you expect to at least try for your employees when you do eventually hopefully get promoted or whatever else you're looking to do? That's part of the job. So this is an excellent way to practice. And by the way, at the end of the day, sometimes you have to invest in yourself. A lot of people, I've had employees like this in my agency, and I see them at other agencies. Well, if the agency's not paying for it, I'm not going because that's just the way it is. There's no point in me. They owe it to me that, if they think it's that important, they can pay for me to go and so forth and so on. Sometimes you have to invest in yourself. Look, your agency that you work for, ABC Police Department or whatever, if you have a training course that you want to take because you want to get a managerial position in another agency, and this training hopefully will help you get to that point, why would your home agency be interested in paying for that? I mean, obviously, again, I would hope that all agencies are pouring money into their employee development for telecommunicators. But you think about it for yourself. If I work for ABC Police Department and I want to go work at DEF Police Department as a manager, the home police agency might say, listen, I don't want to pay you so you can go somewhere else. I don't want to pay for your training so you can go somewhere else. And they have a little bit of a point. I mean, I don't really think that's a great attitude on the part of your current agency. But to some extent, they have a point. If you've made it very clear that you're looking to move up the chain and go elsewhere, your home agency might, say, listen, I don't want to pay for it. You're just going to take it and go somewhere else because I see your eye is on the prize or whatever. So I hope they don't do that. But if they do, you have to consider investing in yourself. You want that managerial position. You want to be the head of that agency. You want to do this. You want to do that. Guess what? You're going to have to pay your dues. And in this case, paying your dues means paying for your own development, your own personal development, and sort of moving the chain on your own. It would be nice if they did it for you, but even if they don't, it's up to you now to move the chain, get that training, which involves putting out the money and commitment on your own. Sometimes you got to take your own vacation time, you got to take your own money, whatever it is, to really get that done, because then you can go out to these other agencies and say, listen, my agency didn't pay for this. I did this all myself. I did this one for me because I want to be the best I can be, and I want to be the grand poobah or whatever. And that may only happen if you're willing to sort of take both the time, money, and energy and dedication effort for yourself and make it happen for yourself. To advance in this field, you have to, I didn't say you have to, I'm sure there are some people who sort of fall into the position somehow, but for most of us, if you want to advance in the field, you have to be willing to advance your education. That's both industry education programs and ideally also your collegiate options. Take advantage of your college program, attend your local college or join up and get your degrees and things like that. Even if you don't go for the college level stuff, or even in conjunction with your college level education, APCO and NENA offer a wide range of attainable options for education programs. They are affordable. They are not, maybe there are some that are free. You can get some on scholarships if that's the way that you end up going. But even if you don't get that opportunity, they are affordable. They are attainable. And I strongly encourage everyone, if you haven't pursued these programs, even if you are an entry-level telecommunicator, or even if you have been doing the job for 20 years and you don't think there's anything new under the sun, I strongly encourage you to consider taking some of these programs. They're excellent programs. That being said, at the very least, even if you decide not to pursue those programs now, doesn't mean you can't pursue them in the future, but even if you decide that today, after hanging up on this webinar, that you're not going to go out and join the CMCP program or whatever it is, at the very least, maintain membership in APCO and NENA. It's inexpensive, and it brings a lot to the party in terms of keeping you up to speed on what's going on out there, new trends, new developments, new things to think about, and again, potentially new educational opportunities, new promotional opportunities, new job opportunities, and things like that. So at the and it's very inexpensive. It's a few dollars a month. So I hope you'll consider it at the very least, if you do nothing else after this webinar, maintaining your membership at APCO and NENA, but ideally I hope you'll pursue some of these educational programs. I hope that you enjoyed this presentation on the APCO and NENA educational path for advancement in the career of public safety telecommunications. Again, I encourage you, I see in this particular presentation, I forgot to put my contact slide again at the end, but that being said, I hope if you have questions, if you have comments, if there's something I can answer for you, I'd be more than happy to. Please feel free to drop me a line. You can also leave a comment in the YouTube comments below, and I'll get to them as soon as I see them. And other than that, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you will join us next time once more when we go into our next month's continuing ed session. Thanks for joining.